It was shocking to me, John, and it comes down to party identification. Do you identify as a Democrat or as a Republican? And traditionally speaking, this is a metric that has been quite telling of elections, and we'll get into that a little bit.
Okay, here we go. It's been a rough week. There's been poop showered all over protesters and everything. We could use a little bit of good news. So we turn to Harry Enten. You never know what you're gonna get. Let's take a look.
Party ID margin, Dem versus Republicans. Specifically, I'm talking about Gallup. Back in Q1 of 2025, it was a tie. Look at how much Democrats have gained on this metric, according to Gallup. Their latest metric, Democrats are ahead by 7 points. That is a 7-point movement to the left. I looked at some other pollsters as well to see if there was similar movement among Quinnipiac. It was +1 Republican. And you can see again, movement to the left, Democrats +3. You know, last year going into the 2024 presidential election, that was the rare time in which Republicans actually held a lead in Gallup's party ID measure. That Republican lead is no more. Adios amigos, eliminated. Now Democrats ahead by 7 points, at least according to Gallup.
I don't know why do I do this to myself? I mean, I'm glad about the good news. We're gonna talk about the good news and the substance and all that, but like, I know that like it's all on purpose, but the adios amigos, and they're like, dude, is it necessary? Like, is that basically like him doing the thing where you'll put like serious news and then you'll have like a video game being played at the same time? It's just for like brain rot that like if he doesn't like wave his arms and say kooky things, people will turn away. I also move my arms a lot. I am Italian, so maybe I shouldn't be too critical on him. I love it. How did the TD get that ready? That was like Monday Night Football level production quality there. But anyway, he is pointing out, thank you TD Mark, you're amazing. So he's pointing out the party ID has now shifted towards the Democrats. And look, I take basically every opportunity to cover good news here on the channel. But in particular, I don't know if anybody remembers, but there had been some earlier indications earlier in this year that the party registration was not going in the Democrats' direction. Like there was a thing even here in California that more people had registered as Republicans than as Democrats. That was the last I had heard of it. So this isn't just good news, it's important news in an area that really could play into the midterms. Okay, so he's got that thing of the party ID there. What does that actually mean for the midterms though? Here he is going to provide a little bit of history.
What does it matter when Democrats have a lead on party ID at this particular point in midterm cycles? Well, I want you to take a look back at some past midterm cycles. Okay, right now we got the Democrats ahead by 7. You go back 4 years ago, the Democrats were only ahead by 1 point. This doesn't look anything like what we had at this point going into the 2022 midterm cycle. It looks much more like what we had going into the 2018 midterm cycle, in which Democrats were ahead by 4 points. They're actually doing better at this point than they were doing during the 2018 cycle. Now let's go all the way back. We'll jump in the DeLorean and essentially look at party ID advantages in midterms. When the GOP gains House seats, look at this. Democrats were ahead by only a point. When the Dems gain House seats, look at this. Democrats were ahead by 8 points. Democrats are up by 7 right now. If this 7-point lead holds in the next year and it averages out next year in 2026, Democrats +7, there is no historical precedent for Republicans actually gaining House seats. The Democrats gain in every year. That looks like what Gallup shows right now.
Okay, and very importantly, he's not right there comparing like 2 elections or whatever. That was the last 30 years of polling, the average party ID lead. So this does look a lot more like the sort of cycle where the Democrats are going to gain seats. I would also say like maybe we could stop just for a second and say, how come over the last 30 years, even when there's been slightly more Democrats, the Republicans gain seats? That doesn't really seem right, but whatever. We're not at +1 right now. We're actually closer to that +8 that he was talking about right there. So that is very important. Look, it is forward facing. I think it's good news, especially coming out of No Kings. A lot of people are like, I want something good to actually happen. And right now I've said the same thing. What's the first big good thing that could happen? Maybe Mamdani winning or whatever in New York. No, but overall, Kat Abou-Ghazaleh winning would be pretty awesome in the Democratic primary. No, but overall, it's the midterms. We need to make sure that he loses the midterms in the House, in the Senate, if possible, because that is not a small thing. That isn't like, a big protest that gives us a little bit of faith or hope. It actually means things can be done. You take over in the House, and then suddenly you have a lot more control over what happens in terms of the budget. You have a lot more control over a lot of these things. Government shutdowns, you have way more control over. You can exact more concessions. Also, you take over the House and then you can get investigations. You can release the Epstein files. You can subpoena members of the Trump administration. I mean, don't get too excited about that. It's entirely possible that they'll just refuse to comply with the law, but at least you can try. We get back a little bit more onto stable ground. You take over the Senate and it's even more significant. Now, not only do you have way more control over legislation, you stop more tax cuts or whatever, but knock on wood, I almost don't even want to say this because most people probably have forgotten that this is one of the major stakes in the election. We haven't even gotten like, Clarence Thomas retiring from the Supreme Court or whatever, or let alone one of the libs retiring. That's really like the end game for this thing, is his further control of the Supreme Court. We take over the Senate, then we have a lot more control over that. So all that's really important. But also, that's the more important part. But for me, like the personal part of this that means something is that it means people are paying attention. It means that they have not all succumbed to apathy, which I would understand considering how terrible things have been. Few know it more than me since I cover it every day. They haven't succumbed to apathy, and when they've seen it, they have moved harshly against it. And for us, like we're not surprised by that, right? I mean, the things that are happening are so corrupt, they're so cruel, they're so xenophobic, they're so terrible. But like, America's really messed up. It was possible that they would love seeing ICE, hunting people down. That they would be, oh yeah, alligator Alcatraz is so cool, man. I want more of this. Invading American cities, maybe they'd really like that. Economic chaos and turmoil, constant trolling, AI videos everywhere. I wouldn't have understood it, but it's possible the American people would have actually liked that. And now, at this point, after about 9 months, it's not looking like that. And if we could just stop for a second, it is nice to be reminded that you are not crazy. It is nice to be reminded that when we're in a critical moment, our values actually kind of feel like they're the core American values. That when people see what's going on, they move in our direction. Now, we never took a moment off. Some people might have. I think there was less turnout in the election, and that is unfortunate and consequential. But this is a reminder that we're not crazy and that good things can happen. Now, it's not going to be easy. We have the Supreme Court potentially getting involved to make it a lot easier for the Republicans to hold on to the House, even if they're at historic lows in terms of approval. That is a fight that we will have to wage. But it is good. It's some good news for today. If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog that is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?